today we are talking about Thunderstone Advance. Now, if you've played Thunderstone before, this is an expansion and it's a base game. And if you played before, then check out my review about just the changes. This is going to be talking about this as if you've never played Thunderstone before and you just went out and bought this game. I will say, I think it's fair to say that if you're going to go out and buy a version of Thunderstone, this is the one to buy for sure. This is essentially took the old version and I would say it's kind of like a 1.5 version of it, maybe even a 2.0, where they've upgraded the stuff inside. It's still compatible with the older games, but it is a game in its own right. So, at the beginning of the game, each player is given a basic deck. This deck is made up of 6 regulars, 2 long spears, 2 Thunderstone shards, and 2 torches. And you're going to take this deck and you're going to shuffle it together, and this is going to be your starting deck. This is going to be the deck you're going to be using for the game. Now, you're also going to have some other cards out here on this board. And so you can see, as we look on the board, I have more regulars and more long spears and more torches that can be bought. But I'm also going to have some other random cards that I'm going to draw. Fortunately, the game comes with randomizer cards. And what you do, for example, you're going to have 4 different heroes up here. And you'll pick 4 of these hero randomizer cards. And I'll say, okay, Boydwood. So I take all the Boydwood, the stack of the Boydwood, and put them out in one of the hero spots. And I keep doing it until I have 4 heroes. Then I go through these cards, and I'm going to take 8 more decks of cards out using these randomizers to pick which decks I'm going to put out. And then those decks are put in different sections, so you can see I have 3 weapons, 1 item, 2 spells, and over here 2 villagers. But it could be different than that, but this board keeps you from putting too many of one type. So for example, I'll never have 4 spells out. The most you can have is 3 spells, so if I drew another spell from the randomizer deck, I would keep drawing. So you have 8. The game also comes with starting setups, like for an initial game. They have scenarios where you can pick, which setups you want. And then you go through a randomizer deck of monsters, and you're going to pick 3 random monsters, but you want 1 level 1, 1 level 2, and 1 level 3, and that will mention that at the top. For example here, the genies, the Ifrit, they're level 3, so if you take them, you would not also take the dragons, which are level 3s, or the undead tree folk, which I have to stop here and say that's one of the coolest additions. I've never thought of undead ents before, but whatever. But anyway, and then you will shuffle all those cards together, and you put them up here in a dungeon, and then you'll put out 3 of those on the board, and at the bottom of your dungeon, in the bottom 10 cards, is a Thunderstone bearer. He's like the final bad guy. Over here you put a deck of curse cards, and over here you put a deck of familiars. Here we have some experience points, and we're ready to go. The game is very, very simple. On your turn, you are going to draw 6 cards randomly from your deck, the top 6 cards of your deck, and then you're going to look at them, and you're going to decide what you're going to do with these. Now, there's 4 different things that you can do. One of the things you can do is go visit the village. When you do that, the only thing you care about on your cards is that's not the only thing, but the main thing is the money that's shown here. So I have 2, 4, 5. If I go to the village, I have $5 and I can buy 1 thing. Now each card has a cost on it. For example, you see this long spear cost me 3. But I'm going to look at these characters here, and I'm going to say, oh man, this cut purse here, she costs 5, so I want to buy her. If I buy her and add her to my deck, she is going to go, and all the cards I spent to buy her, my whole hand basically goes to my discard pile. I'm then going to draw 6 new cards. When I run out of cards, all my discards will go back into my hand. So any card I buy, I'm eventually going to get again. Other cards allow you to do things in the village. For example, the cut purse here, when you go to the village, all players discard the top card of their deck, gain the gold value of 1 discarded card. So when you go to the village, I can use her special ability. I can also level up a hero. When you go to the dungeon and you beat monsters, you will get experience points. At the bottom of each hero is a number for experience points. That number, if I pay that many experience points that I've gotten, then I can take this hero and get rid of it out of the game and go through the pile until I find the level 2 characters and put her in my deck instead. Level 2 characters are much more expensive. It's easier to level them up. And then you can later on level 2 up to a level 3 character, which are insanely powerful, very good, and very useful. Those cards can also be bought if all the level 1s are gone. Then you can buy them too. But it's a lot easier, like I said, to level them up as the game goes by. So one of the things you can do with your hand is go to the village. And you can buy, there's no limit on which cards you can buy. You just can buy only one. Another thing you can do with your hand is you can go to the dungeon. At this point, you will use any dungeon abilities on your card, but you're also going to fight. So you look at your attack. So he has physical attack +1. And I can give him a weapon. How do I know I can give him this weapon? Well, this weapon has a strength requirement of 3, and the regular has a strength of 3, so he can hold it. So this is +1, so that's 2. He's +1 here, so that's 3, 4, 5, and this gives a hero strength +2. I don't need that. So I have a total of 5. Now, can I go into the dungeon? Well, let's take a closer look at the dungeon. There are 3 levels to the dungeon. If you go into this first level, there's a darkness number here, 1, 2, and 3. If you go into the level 1, the darkness is 1. That means if you don't have at least a light value of 1. So I look at all my cards. Do I have a light value of 1? It's a little glowing number here. I don't. If only I had a torch. A torch has a light value of 1. Or if I had brought this dancing sword. This dancing sword also has a light value of 1. But if I had that, then I would ignore this darkness penalty. Otherwise, I'm -2 to killing this warrior Bones, which needs 5. I have 5. I could kill him, except I don't have light. However, this guy here says, if equipped with a pole arm, draw a card. And this is a pole arm. So I draw a card from the top of my deck. Oh, another regular. He's 6. That makes 6. But I had another regular with a pole arm, so I can draw another card. And a torch. Got him. If I didn't have a torch, I would have had to pay 7 to kill this skeleton. And when I kill this guy, he's a trophy. I can use him in the future for physical attack of +1. You can see that he has money and he gives experience. And at the end of the game, he's worth victory points. And then these guys move down and we add another monster to the pile. You can skip the first guys and go farther down, but then there's a bigger light penalty if you don't have enough light. And, you know, it's going to be difficult as to how you go around and decide conquering these monsters. So, again, there's 2 things you can do. One is go to town, buy something, go to the dungeon, fight something. Either way, at the end of your turn, all your cards that you've used are discarded. Any cards that you've gotten, monsters or things you bought at the village, are discarded too. Another thing that you can do, and this is a really interesting strategic thing, is I can say, oh man, you know, I want to keep these 2 regulars. I don't know why you would. But let's say I had a cut purse and a hunter and a sergeant in my hand, 3 really good characters, and then a bunch of garbage. I can take the stuff I want to keep, this is called prepare, and put it back on top of my deck and discard the rest. That means that I'm going to get these cards plus other cards, and I have a better chance of getting the hand I want for next turn. I don't get to do anything, but I can get that hand that I want. So that's another thing I can do, and that's called prepare. And then finally, the last thing you can do on your turn is, instead of doing anything else, you can take 1 card and chuck it from the game completely. So you won't show up in your deck again. Now you say, why would you do that? Well, maybe you have better cards than regulars and they're clogging up your deck. But also, sometimes over the course of the game, some of the monsters will force you to put diseases in your hand. When you draw this, attack -1. And that's the curse of shame, the curse of discord, the curse of sloth. All these do negative things to you. They're terrible, but that's a way to get rid of them. There's other ways to get rid of them also. Another thing that you can get is, as the game progresses, you might get a familiar. When you get a familiar, you can only have 1. You put it in front of yourself, and whenever you use it, depending on how much experience you have in front of you, you can use one of its special abilities. When you do that, you keep the experience, but then the familiar is discarded into your deck until you get them again and draw them and place them in front of you. You can't use them. But it's a neat addition to the game, and I like how each one of them has different special abilities that you can use. And so, a lot of fun. So the game is going to continue turn after turn after turn, as you're going to eventually be powerful enough to keep beating the enemies until you get to the Thunderstone bearer. So here's the one for this deck, Orseg. And this guy gains the battle effects of each other monster in the dungeon hall. It's craziness. But if you beat him, then the game is going to end at that point, and everyone's going to take their deck and add up all the victory points. Most victory points come from monsters, but there are a few cards that sometimes when you buy them are worth victory points, and also the heroes, when you upgrade them to the higher levels, are also worth victory points. Whoever has the most victory points is the winner of the game. And then you just start another game with completely different decks and different monsters and different heroes. There's a ton of different options. If you've not played Thunderstone before, this is a new variant of the system, like I said at the beginning, but it is compatible with the older versions. Just some of the terminology has changed, and the book tells you what. I also should mention that the other side, there's another side to the board, and the only difference is the dungeon hall. This is the wilderness, and here the light penalty is not so fierce, and there's 4 ranks. This actually decreases the difficulty of the game a bit, and if you're playing for the first time, I would highly recommend playing with this side. Alright, Thunderstone Advance. I really enjoyed this game, but to be fair, you have to realize that Thunderstone is in my top 10 games of all time. I like a lot of deck building games. Dominion was the first, and I like a lot of them, but this one's my favorite, especially when I play it with the Epic variant, which is not what I showed you here, but that's basically where you mix everything together, and in fact, it's in the rule book, and they even gave me a bit of credit for that, so maybe I'm a bit biased in that regard. But let's talk about why is Thunderstone such a good game, if you do think it is.
I do. I would rather play Thunderstone than many of the different deck building games that are out there.
So more than Dominion?
Absolutely more than Dominion.
More than Nightfall?
Yes. This has a little bit more of a palatable theme to it. I don't have a problem with vampires and werewolves and all that kind of stuff. As a matter of fact, my family and I were just watching Werewolf TV show a few days ago. So it's not that I have a problem with it. I just think that it's a little bit more of a palatable theme. And I think the theme works better with this anyway.
Yeah, now some of the things that I really like about this game, the design of the cards and the artwork, I think, is just top-notch.
Very much so.
The game plays very cleanly. It's easy to... Usually when you get your hand, you can decide it makes sense. Should I go to the village or the dungeon? Usually it's pretty obvious, but you know, there's that aspect of not deciding. I really like the leveling up aspect a lot.
Yeah.
All the level 1 heroes are kind of, they're okay.
Yeah.
But the level 3s are rocking for all of them. And it's just, to me, the whole game is trying to get those level up so you can just lay the smack down on an enemy.
But even when you're trying to level up like that, you can still use the level 1 characters if you're careful about the characters that you pick. You can. I mean, I found myself a lot just trying to go into the dungeon. I didn't really have in my hand. I didn't have what I needed to conquer one of those monsters, but there was a chance, and it just worked out to where many times, especially the last time we played, that I was able to go in there on a chance, and I was able to flip more cards and that type of stuff and give me exactly what I needed to conquer that monster. So that's one thing that I think the Thunderstone Advance has really kind of improved upon, being able to chance it in the dungeon when you don't know for sure you can do it.
If there's one thing I'm not a big fan of in Thunderstone, it's the way the dungeon deck is. Now, I like how they did here. They have the level 1, level 2, level 3 monsters and shuffling those together. But it still seems kind of weird when the very first monster in a dungeon is a big baddie.
Yeah.
Now, the giant bad guy comes at the end, but there's still big bad guys. But the rules do have a variant where you can mix them together. And I would recommend going in the rules and looking at the different scenarios and the different sets of cards. The cards in this set are very basic. There's nothing really freaky or unusual that you're like, well, that's a weird card, how it works. Mm-hmm. They work together pretty well.
No, they do. They do. And I really don't have a problem with a big baddie. I mean, I see where Tom's coming from, but the big baddie being at the front, you can always just play the extra light and go to the second level. So it's not like you have to hit that first guy. You can always go to that second level if you've got the light or the darkness negation or whatever they call it now, to go to that second or third level. So it's not that big of a deal. I mean, if you want to try to explain it away, he's wandering around the dungeon and you just happen to slip by him or whatever. So I don't think he's that big of a deal, but I see where he's coming from.
I have a lot more thoughts that I want to talk about. My thoughts about how this changes. Check out our review on the changes of this version. I have a lot of things I think about that. But for now, I'm going to say I'm giving this one 2 thumbs up. I give this a 10, which is the highest ranking that I give a game. Well, except for maybe Cosmic Encounter, I guess an 11. But of all, this is one of the best games I've ever played. Easy.
Yeah, I'll go in with that. I'll give this 2 huge Thunderstones up.
Thunderstone fragments, sir.
Okay, well, no. Mine are Thunderstones.
Oh, okay.
We have combined the fragments, and we are ready to rule the galaxy as... Okay, we won't go there.
That's okay. The Star Wars version will come out in a few years.
Yeah, the 3D Star Wars version.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find the latest board game news at Dicetowernews.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Fun Again Games, the world's best game source. Fun Again Games has over 5,000 games available. Check them out at funagain.com.